Have you ever walked into a room and noticed a man like maybe he's 63, maybe 67, and something about him just stops you? He's not the tallest guy there. He's not wearing the most expensive suit, but there's something about the way he carries himself. The way he speaks, the energy he radiates. Women notice it, other men notice it, the whole room notices it. That quality is not luck. It is not random. It is biological. It is behavioral. And most men over 60 are completely wasting it. Today, I'm going to tell you the truth. Because here's what nobody says out loud. Some men become more attractive with age, while others slowly disappear in front of everyone's eyes. Not because of wrinkles, not because of gray hair, not because they turned 60, but because one group continues evolving while the other quietly gives up on themselves. And women can feel the difference immediately. Female psychology is incredibly sensitive to energy, emotional stability, purpose, and confidence. A woman may not consciously say, his nervous system feels grounded, or he radiates emotional security, but she feels it instinctively. And once you understand what creates that presence, everything changes. Before we go deeper, I want you to really think about this for a second. Have you ever met a man in his 60s or 70s who somehow felt more alive than younger men? More calm, more centered, more magnetic? If you have, comment presence below, because I want to know if you've experienced this too. And if this conversation resonates with you already, take 1 second to like the video and subscribe. Not because the algorithm needs it, but because conversations like this matter. Too many men are aging physically while starving emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. And the truth is, it does not have to happen that way. I'm Maggie, host of Queen of Psychology YouTube channel. And today, we're going to talk about something deeper than attraction. We're going to talk about masculine energy after 60, the psychological traits women secretly admire in mature men, and the habits that make certain men become more compelling with age instead of less. Because despite what society tells you, a man's most powerful years are often not his 20s or 30s. In many cases, they begin when he finally stops performing and starts becoming fully himself. One of the biggest lies modern culture tells men is that aging automatically means irrelevance. That after a certain age, your purpose is basically over. Slow down, stay quiet, fade into the background. And sadly, many men absorb that belief without even realizing it. You see it happen subtly. A man who once cared deeply about his appearance starts dressing like he no longer matters. A man who once had ambition stops setting goals entirely. A man who once felt emotionally alive becomes emotionally flat. Not because life destroyed him, but because somewhere along the way, he unconsciously decided his best years were already behind him. And psychologically, that decision changes everything. Because the human brain responds powerfully to identity. The moment a man internally labels himself as old, his behavior starts aligning with that identity. He moves differently, speaks differently, thinks differently. His posture changes, his energy changes, his standards change. And women notice that shift immediately, even if they cannot explain it logically. Now here's the fascinating part. Research in behavioral psychology consistently shows that confidence is not just a personality trait. It is a biological signal. Women are naturally drawn toward men who project grounded certainty because the female nervous system subconsciously associates calm confidence with emotional safety and competence. That does not mean arrogance, it means steadiness. Think about two men entering the same room. One is constantly seeking approval. He talks too much, tries too hard, laughs nervously, monitors everyone's reactions. The other man is calm, relaxed, present. He listens carefully before speaking. He is comfortable with silence. He doesn't need to dominate the room because his energy already fills it. Which one do you think people remember? And here's the truth most men miss. That kind of presence is not genetic, it is built. I once spoke with a woman in her early 50s who told me something incredibly revealing. She said, "The older I get, the less impressed I am by appearance alone. What attracts me now is how a man makes me feel emotionally." That sentence stayed with me because it perfectly captures mature female psychology. Younger attraction is often reactive and surface level. Mature attraction becomes emotional, psychological, and deeply energetic. Women over time become far more sensitive to emotional regulation, emotional intelligence, and self-awareness. Why? Because life teaches women the difference between charisma and character. A younger man can impress temporarily with excitement, but a grounded, mature man creates something far more powerful, emotional peace, and emotional peace is rare. This is why many women are naturally drawn to older men who have done inner work. A man who has faced pain without becoming bitter. A man who has experienced failure without losing his confidence. A man who no longer needs to prove his masculinity every 5 minutes because he already knows who he is. That energy is magnetic. But let's talk about something practical because psychology and biology are deeply connected. One of the fastest ways men lose attractiveness after 60 is through physical passivity, not aging itself. Passivity. There's a huge difference. A man can have gray hair and wrinkles and still radiate vitality, but the moment he stops moving, stops training, stops challenging himself physically, his body and brain begin declining together. Research shows that resistance training significantly improves testosterone levels, cognitive function, confidence, posture, and even mood regulation. In other words, strength training is not just cosmetic. It changes how a man feels emotionally and psychologically, and women pick up on that immediately. I remember meeting a man once at a community event. He was 68 years old, not conventionally handsome, but his energy was unforgettable. He stood tall. He moved with purpose. He spoke slowly and confidently. Later, someone told me he had started lifting weights at 62 after surviving a difficult divorce and years of depression. That decision changed his entire life. Not because muscles magically attract women, but because discipline transformed the way he saw himself, and that's the deeper truth. Women are not responding only to the body. They are responding to what the body represents. Discipline, self-respect, consistency, life force. Another thing women notice immediately is whether a man still has purpose. This is huge. A man without purpose often becomes emotionally stagnant. He wakes up without direction, drifts through routines, consumes entertainment endlessly, and slowly disconnects from his own aliveness. And psychologically, humans are deeply affected by momentum. Purpose creates dopamine. Dopamine creates motivation, optimism, and engagement with life. That's why a man pursuing something meaningful feels different to be around. And your purpose does not have to be grand. It could be learning a language, starting a garden, mentoring younger men, traveling, writing, building furniture, training for a marathon, volunteering. The specific goal matters less than the emotional energy behind it. Women are incredibly responsive to men who are still becoming, because becoming is attractive. There's also another layer most people never discuss. Emotional maturity after 60 is one of the rarest and most attractive qualities a man can develop. Many men were raised believing vulnerability was weakness, so instead of processing emotions, they buried them. Over decades, that emotional suppression creates distance, irritability, defensiveness, and loneliness. But the men who become deeply attractive later in life usually do something courageous. They heal, they reflect, they apologize, they process grief, they go to therapy. They learn emotional awareness, they stop pretending they're invincible. And ironically, this makes them feel stronger than ever. One woman once described her partner to me this way. She said, "What makes him attractive isn't that he's perfect, it's that he's emotionally safe." Think about how powerful that is. Emotionally safe, not flashy, not loud, not dominant, safe. Because mature feminine psychology is not just searching for excitement. It's searching for depth, stability, and emotional honesty. Now let's talk about appearance for a moment, because this matters more than many men realize. Not from vanity, from psychology. The way a man presents himself communicates how he feels about himself internally. Studies on enclothed cognition show that clothing directly affects confidence, posture, and behavior. When a man dresses intentionally, grooms himself well, and carries himself with care, he unconsciously signals self-worth. And no, this does not mean expensive clothing. A clean-fitted shirt, good posture, healthy skin, well-maintained hair, proper grooming, clothes that actually fit your current body. These small details create enormous psychological impact because they communicate one message clearly. I still value myself. That alone changes how people respond to you. And here's something else women notice almost instantly. Emotional neediness. Neediness drains attraction faster than age ever will. And here's something else women notice almost instantly. Emotional neediness. Neediness drains attraction faster than age ever will. There is something deeply attractive about a man who can appreciate a woman without emotionally clinging to her. That energy creates emotional freedom, and freedom is magnetic. Now, I want to pause here and ask you something honestly. Which area of your life have you neglected the most lately? Your health, your emotional life, your confidence, your purpose? I really want you to think about that. And if you feel comfortable, share it in the comments, because you'd be surprised how many people are silently struggling with the exact same thing. One of the most beautiful things about human psychology is that transformation can happen incredibly fast once identity changes. The moment a man stops saying, "I'm too old," and starts saying, "I'm still growing," his brain begins searching for evidence to support that belief. That's neuroplasticity, and it matters far more than people realize. I've seen men completely reinvent themselves at 65. I've seen men fall in love again at 72. I've seen men start businesses after retirement. I've seen men rebuild confidence after devastating heartbreak. The common factor was never luck. It was decision. At some point, they stopped waiting for permission to fully live again. And maybe that's the message someone listening to this needs today. Maybe your life is not ending. Maybe it's finally beginning from a place of wisdom instead of performance. Because there is something incredibly powerful about a man who no longer needs to impress anyone. A man who has become comfortable in his own skin. A man who knows pain but remains open-hearted anyway. A man who has learned patience, emotional control, resilience, and gratitude through lived experience. Youth can imitate confidence, but only experience creates depth, and depth is unforgettable. So, if you remember nothing else from this conversation, remember this. Women are not attracted to mature men despite their age. They are attracted to the qualities emotionally evolved men often develop because of their age. Presence, calmness, purpose, emotional intelligence, discipline, stability, self-respect, generosity. These qualities become more attractive over time, not less. The question is not whether you are getting older. The question is who you are becoming while you age. And that answer is still completely within your control. If this video spoke to you, let me know by hitting the like button because it truly helps these conversations reach the people who need them most. Share this with someone who may have forgotten their value lately. And if you haven't subscribed yet, join our community because every week here on Queen of Psychology, we have honest conversations about human behavior, attraction, emotional intelligence, relationships, and personal growth. And before you leave, I want you to answer one final question in the comments. What quality do you think makes a man truly unforgettable after 60? I cannot wait to read your thoughts. And remember this deeply. Your age does not define your energy. Your mindset does. I'll see you in the next video.